Alrighty. Now, after my super long spiel about how to graph a parabola, let's go ahead and graph the following function. F of x is equal to 1/2 x squared minus 1. Right? So the first way, so I'm going to talk about two ways. Right? The way one is just going to be the most straightforward one, and that is plugging in values, right? So before I start, yes, I can. So normally when you graph, we just want to graph. So these are just kind of the ground. I don't really know what to call them, but just the 5 normal points that we always pick when we graph a function, because they're usually the easiest to plug in and solve. However, this is the easiest when A is not a fraction. Since A is a fraction, what I'm going to do is I'm going to think of numbers that f of x will give me a whole number. So what am I going to do? I'm going to look at this denominator, which is 2, and I'm going to pick values that are multiples of 2. So I'm going to pick -4, -2, 0, 2, and 4. You can still pick -2 through 2, but you will get fractions, right? So let's plug these in. So when I have -4, so maybe I can make this into 3 columns first. All right, so you guys can really see what I'm doing. So for a function, what does it mean? It means when I take a value and I plug it into my function kind of has like a formula. And then I'm going to solve that formula. So f of -4, this is equal to 1/2 -4 quantity squared minus 1. So -4 squared is 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8. 8 minus 1 is 7. So I guess I'm going to put the 7 right here. Okay, and f of x is equal to y. Right. Same thing for f of -2. I'm going to plug in 1/2 -2 quantity squared minus 1. -2 quantity squared is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. Right? And then this f of 0, when I plug in 0 for 1/2, or 0 for x, I get -1. Okay, I'll let you guys fill this out, but what I did talk about symmetry, you will get 1 and 7. Right? If you don't believe me, plug them in yourself to prove it for you. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to plot these points. And again, I'm going to use a bigger pen because hopefully it'll reduce my errors. So wherever there's a -4, I'm going to there's 7, and then 1, -2, 1, 0, -1, 2, 1, and 4, 7. All right, guys, wish me luck. As you guys hopefully, maybe you guys remember, I am not the best at graphing, but you know what? It's okay. As long as you get the gist. Okay, oh, that's not too bad. All right, so this is a parabola, and so this graph would be our final answer. So when I talk about, so there's also another way we can do this. Okay, I'll call it way 2. So what would I do for way 2? Way 2, I'm going to use all of this knowledge that we have learned. Right? So I guess honestly this would not be the best for me, because I guess you need to know the tricks for that. But we can get started, so I can still show you guys how to at least find a couple of points. Right? So for this one, if we recall, we have f of x is equal to a x minus h quantity squared plus k. So what do I know? I know k is equal to -1, right? So what does that mean? And this is our vertical shift. So that means that our function, our parent graph, is going to go down 1. And if you see, like, even the origin, the 0.00, it does go down 1, right? So that's just me checking 1 point. It's going to be different because the a changed, but that's okay. How else can I rewrite? So we have x minus h quantity squared, but over here I only have 1/2 x squared. So how can I rewrite this to make it look like this? Another way to write f of x is equal to 1/2 x squared minus 1 is the same as 1/2 x minus 0 quantity squared minus 1. This and this, they are the exact same. Why? Because x minus nothing is still x, and I'll still get x squared and then 1/2 x squared. So these are the exact same. This is just rewriting it, so it looks like our general form. So what does that say? So what is my hk? What is my vertex? My vertex is 0, -1, right? And as you can see, looking at this graph that we already graphed, it is at 0. Our vertex is at 0, -1. Right? So with the vertical and horizontal stretches, what you'll normally do is so what you do for when a is 1/2, what do you do it? So since a is between 0 and 1, we know that our graph is going to be skinnier than our parent graph. Or so. Actually, sorry guys. I don't know if I missaid this in the video, but what I actually mean, so shrink and stretch. So just in case I did say it wrong, because there's a huge possibility, a vertical stretch makes your function skinnier, and a vertical shrink makes your graph just wider, right? So yeah, keep note of that. So because of this is 1/2, it's going to make our parent graph bigger. So what do you do with this? So first you would need your parent graph values. Okay, I'm still going to do this 5. Okay, so for -2, because a is 1/2, what you're going to do is you're going to half this. So this becomes 2, this becomes 1/2, this becomes 0 divided by 2 is still 0, this is 1/2, and this is 2, right? However, because of the vertical shift, I also now have to subtract all of these by 1, right? And so I'll get 1, -1/2, -1, -1/2, and 1. And so if you did find the values of -1 and -1 here, or -1 and +1, if you plug that in, 1 squared is 1, 1 times 1/2 is 1/2, 1/2 minus 1 is 1/2. So we still get the same values. Even if you did 4, you'll still get 7. Right? So that is another way to do that. But yeah. So one last thing, we want to know, is our parabola going to go upwards or downwards? So we're going to look at our a. So our a is 1/2. Since 1/2 is greater than 0, we know it's going to point up like a cup, right? And as you can see from this graph, it does point up like a cup, right? So I apologize if the second half was a little confusing, But one thing that just I wanted to show you guys or just talk about is I just want you guys to get familiar with the vertex. What does A represent? What does H represent? What does K? How do you find how do you find your vertex, axis of symmetry, all of that stuff. And so and even how to rewrite this, right? To know that your vertex would be 0, -1. Like, why is it? Because your H is 0. So this is the end of section 1, right? And then the next video will be about section 2.